Okay, my brilliant student masters. Today we are going to be covering for a basic intro into drawing portraits, face shape, the chin shape, the eye shape, the nose width, the shape of the hairline, and then we'll cover value later, probably next class or the class after that, depending on how we do today. So, I'm going to be drawing really lightly. Like my light lines will be with blue and my dark lines will be with charcoal. At home, you'll probably be using one of the lighter H grade pencils, and you'll be using a B grade for your darker lines. These lines will be like the basic guidelines. So just like we did in our still lifes, we're setting up the shape of our object, and then we're filling it out and filling out the details with more confidence using our darker. I apologize, I'm going to clear my throat like 1,000 times. I'm just dealing with annoying allergies, as always. So let's get started. So we're going to do it in two different ways today. This is the first way, it's the harder way, so I want you guys to get practice doing things the hard way before we do it the slightly easier way. Okay, so I'm going to start by drawing the shape of a circle. So the bigger the circle is, the closer the head is to you. So this one's a little bit further away than like if I did a circle this big. Okay, and then some people say you should do an inverted triangle here for the chin, and that's fine, you can do that, but that tends to make things look a little bit more comic booky, and it looks a little bit, you get into kind of like a drawing rut when you start learning how to do things in a very formulaic way. I personally learned and prefer to teach this method where you draw another circle and then you can start to define the chin using your intuition and your drawing ability. This is a little bit more of learning how to do it the party trick way. This is learning how to do it with the goal of learning nuance and mastery and all that. So I've drawn two circles here. They're, this first one is going to be where the crown of the head is, the top of the head, and then this bottom one is down where the chin goes, bottom of the chin. The second circle is a little bit smaller, but not too much smaller than the first circle. And mine's a little bit lopsided, so I'm just going to circle around until their widths are at about the same. Like this one's a little wonky, it's over a little bit, so I got to drag it out this way so that they're a little bit more proportionate. So I have my two circles. Okay, and then at about halfway, if you're wondering how to put that circle there, I should have said this first. Let me pull up a new piece of paper. Okay. So I have my big circle, and then I have my smaller circle that I'm going to put in at halfway. So this is halfway, right? Halfway line is where this part of my circle is going to go. Right? That's the top of the circle. The rest of the circle is going down here. Okay. This circle should be slightly smaller. Second circle, slightly smaller than the bigger circle. Okay, and this is where the bottom of the chin is. That's where the top of the head is. Okay, and then I just draw a line that connects these two. And this line can come in if you want it to, but just for today's sake, let's make things a little simpler. You're just connecting these two here. Okay? And then I draw a circle here for where the nose will be. And the width of your nose depends on the size of your circle. So if you want a wider set nose, make your circle a little bit more like an ellipse, stretches out. If you want a small little button nose, remember that those aren't necessarily realistic. Those might not be indicative of what your nose actually looks like. I'm going to draw something that's a little bit in between. Okay? And then I draw the circle for the eyes, the eye sockets. And in the next video, I'll go into like a little explanation of like what the eye socket is versus the eye. But essentially, you have, like on Donnie's skeleton, you know, your skull has, this is half of a skull. Your skull, where your eyeball rests, is within a socket, which is just this big, not that big, but I'm exaggerating for the drawing purpose, is this pretty much like a pit in your skull where your eyeball lives. So I'm drawing, this is the nose, this is the skeleton mouth. Now do you get the reference? Cool. So these are the eyeball sockets. Your eyes live in here. And I put mine at about where that halfway line is on that first big circle. Okay, a little bit goes over, but a lot more is down below that line. Okay? You want the sides of your socket to be in line with the sides of your nose. Okay? And then you'll draw down here a little circle for the chin. And that's basically like the little ball inside of your chin, just the bottom part of it. Okay, and if you did that triangle method, the inverted triangle, then you're kind of forced to sort of decide, do I have a square jaw, or do I have a narrow jaw? Do I have a pointy bottom? I think this way is just a little bit easier, or a little bit more, like, gives you the freedom to sort of play around and explore, like, do they have a wide set jaw? Do they have a narrow jaw? We're going to go with a nice wide set jaw on this person. Okay? Then, because I drew this little circle here, and I didn't make it too big, I made it about just a little bit smaller than the eye socket. This is where the bottom of the lip is going to go. And if you're a little bit worried about what the distance should be, it's the, so your eyes are halfway. Well, sorry, let me not skip ahead. Let me draw the eyes first. Okay, so your eyes are going to fall just above, or just below that halfway of the first circle line. And you want your eyes to be, you want to be able to fit 5 eyes going across the head. So I've got one, this is how wide that is. I can also measure it out with like my pen, pencil, crayon, whatever. So I have one there, one there, one there, one there, one there. Should probably move this over a little bit. Yeah. Okay. And then, so halfway between the eyes and the chin is the nose, right? And then halfway between the nose and the chin is the mouth. So I made a little mark there. I'm just going to double check. It's about halfway. I can pull it down a little bit if it's not. That's okay. Then, for the mouth, I like to draw out the shape first. And I try to set that as wide as I think the mouth is going to be. So maybe you have a little narrow mouth, maybe you have a really wide mouth. Just try to be honest with the shapes. Don't go too crazy. Usually a mouth doesn't extend past the eyes line. So with the mouth, I draw a little kind of divot and then a upside down or sideways parentheses, and then another right there. So it's just basically a circle or an ellipse with a line going through it. Ellipse with a line going through it. You kind of dip at the top, but keep that bottom round, and you dip in the middle, keep that bottom round. Then there's some shading right there. And then for the nose, I will draw a little C there, and then a backwards C there, and I'll do a little sideways C there. And then I can do now that I've put in my main shapes, I can cover them with charcoal. Oh my gosh, you can't draw charcoal on top of crayon. I'm just realizing that because it's wax. Huh, alright. Well, hopefully you can see that. Sorry for that. Okay, and then for the ears, you basically do another C shape, or like an ellipse, like half of an ellipse. And then the line inside of the ear is just basically like a little, like two little hills on their side. Okay, two little hills. That looks a little cartoony. I would just draw that for now so you get the idea of like where the shape goes. It's like right in the middle. And then we can talk about how to finesse the ears a little bit later. Okay, now here's the top of the head. And this is where we can draw in our hair. And the shape can range from like a rounded shape or a heart-shaped or a square. And maybe even a little widow's peak. Well, this is the widow's peak. This is more like a, you know what you'd call that, like a receding hairline, like a German hairline. Okay, and then you can draw the shape of the hair. If it were a dude and he had short hair, you might just do like a little short gap of where the hair would start at the forehead and where the hair would end at the top of the head. Maybe you could give it a little bit of shagginess so it looks like there's some spikes. Maybe it comes down here with that shaggy line. And then eyebrows will be right on top of the eyeball socket that you drew in there. Just draw the shape like that. Take it from one end of the eyeball socket to the other eyeball socket. And there we go. And that's your face. So practice drawing it that way.